Thank you and my colleagues for bringing their students and for my students being here. I'm Dr. Barnes, and this is my passport event that I look forward to every semester. And I hope you get something out of it. I'm glad to see this big crowd. And there'll be others coming in as I talk. Let me start out asking you something. Have you thought about your future after you leave Lamar? You've got a good, successful future. Our former student who's going to come back and speak to you in a little while. But what about the rest of you who are still in school? Have you thought about entering the job market and how hard or easy it's going to be in this relatively slow economy? Do you think it's going to be hard or easy for you? Well, you know what? If you think it's going to be very hard, I'm going to talk to you about a program that we offer that's going to make it a lot easier for you to enter that job market with the knowledge and the skills that are in great demand in industry today that correlate with the 4 big trends that's going on out there. You know what the 4 trends are that you have to know about and that we teach you in this program that I'm going to be talking about in a minute? 4 big trends in the business world.
Science.
What? What'd you say? SAP? Is that what you said?
He said STEM.
Oh, the STEM. Yeah, the jobs are in that. But that isn't the trend. Those are categories of jobs where the demand is really high. But what are the trends? The trends, what's going on in the business world right now? Number 1, cloud computing. That's a fact. We teach that concept. Who can tell me what it is? Does that mean there's not any MIS majors here? Corey? What is it, Corey?
Storing data in a centralized network that's somewhere else.
That's right. In the internet. Accessible by any device. That's the number 1 trend. Companies are hiring people who understand that trend and who can work in that area. What's another trend? Big data. Oh my goodness. Big data. That is where the biggest demand is. What do we call big data in our MIS books? We don't really call it that, but that's what it is. No. Internet of Things. No. Hey, what is business intelligence? What is it? It is the analysis, the multidimensional analysis of all of that tremendous amount of data. And we teach this with specialized software that is in great demand. Data analytics, big data. When you hear that term, you know, I'll always have a job. I want to learn more about this because that's where the jobs are. That's only 2 of the 4. What are the other 2? You use it all the time. Social media. Don't you use Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and several of these others? Don't you think that's going on out there in the corporate environment just like it is in your personal environment with your friends? It definitely is. And what's another one? The last big trend. There's about 10 of them. I'm just going to focus on those 4 first before I get into the presentation. Mobile. Don't all of you have a phone? A mobile phone? That's the big trend. What do you know about mobile? And how are companies using mobile devices and mobile apps and having to re-engineer what they've had on their website to now fit mobile devices. We teach and cover all of those trends in this program that I want to talk to you about, that we titled Exploring MIS and SAP. I know you're familiar with SAP, whether you are an MIS major or not. We offer both a BBA in MIS. I created this major many, many years ago, I won't tell you how many, and have seen it evolve through the years with the advent and the evolution of new technology, where we try to keep everything current with what's going on in the marketplace and what industry wants us to be teaching. And I think we do a pretty good job of it. And I'll have our former student who graduated 2 years ago in a few minutes come and tell you about his job and how he has benefited from going through this MIS program. We also offer a minor in MIS. And I want you to be thinking, you may not have thought about your future yet and your entrance into the job market, or even know what's in demand out there in terms of skill sets. We focus on that in our curriculum. And I'm going to present to you what we teach in that curriculum, some of which you will have taken by the time you graduate, even if you're not an MIS major. The first thing I had to define to a former dean when I put this program in, he said, "What is MIS?" We know it stands for Management Information System, but what is that? A very simple definition I want to share with you. We're going to use technology to solve business problems. Plain and simple. What kind of business problems? What are you talking about solving? What's the underlying problem that every business has, actually needs? Information. We live in an information age, don't we? Thanks to the internet and the Internet of Things, as you mentioned a while ago. And most of the problems to be solved with technology involve collecting, creating, maintaining, storing, distributing information to who? Managers. The first name in the program, management. Managers use information to do what? To make decisions, to solve problems. That's what they're paid to do. Everybody uses information whether they're a manager or not. But we focus on it in this program in terms of being able to teach you how to use this technology with that valuable resource we call information in any of the other fields that are offered as majors in the College of Business. Every major uses technology, right? Computers originated in the accounting department. So there is a close relationship between accounting and MIS. Marketing uses it in the area of customer relationship management. Manufacturing and marketing, again, use it in the area of supply chain management. So you can't escape it. It's out there. It's what sustains and provides the foundation of our business. So that's how we know anybody who works in this field will always have a job. Because the internet's not going away. Technology's not going away. It's only increasing with the demand for information and more of it. These are simply some examples of information and technology for the airline industry and how technology has made it so easy to do all these things, to search and compare low prices for your airfare, to make your reservations online. See, all this stuff has put the travel agents out of business. In fact, many industries have been disrupted due to this technology, replacing them with the internet. To print out that ticket, to print out your boarding pass without having to wait in line. All of these things that we couldn't do without technology. Many times I'm asked when I advise, not so much in the last few years, but in earlier years, what is the difference between your MIS program and the CIS program in engineering? So I thought, well, let's address that right here in this presentation. Our focus is on business and business needs and business information and decision making. Theirs is on developing and coding software, essentially programming. Our objective is to have a department or an enterprise that's going to run more efficiently and effective with this implementation and management of this technology. Theirs is on coding, the logic and procedures of writing that program. Our core skill is on problem solving. Remember back to the definition, we use technology to solve problems. We need problem solvers as it relates to technology. Our core task is on determining what the business requirements for that improved information system is. Is anything that's automated where you work in your department, whether it's QuickBooks, accounting software, or Excel, or SAP, or whatever your software is, all of that relates to an information system. And sometimes we create new information systems based on the requirements of the users. It's always dependent on their user requirement. In CIS, their focus is on delivering those programmed information systems in terms of the software applications. Starting job title for us, entry-level starting job, business systems analyst. For them, application program. Okay? Career goals. When you get started in your career, whatever that career is, you have a career path. You may not know what it is right now, but we help you focus on it in MIS, what our career path is. And we start with the entry level and then we work our way up. We have different niches we go into, from networking to database administration to website design to any kind of technical server support. You name it, it's out there. And you focus on that niche to get to the top if you are ambitious and want to do that. Their top level would be a programming manager. All right? We're in business. They have since been moved from engineering to arts and sciences. Okay. This is our major curriculum, comprised of 24 hours. All right, let's go through it. MIS 3310, Principles of MIS. Everybody in the College of Business takes that core course. Okay? So you have already had the first course in the major. Or the minor. It's also required for the minor. Next course, MIS 3340, which we have titled IS Infrastructure, which another name for that is networking, our networking course. Only offered in the spring. MIS 3310 is a prerequisite to all of these other courses that I'm going through. MIS 3350 or 3360, this is our one programming required class out of the 24 hours, one. And what we offer is Visual Basic. And several of you probably have already gone through Dr. Flossie's Visual Basic class. We don't have Java because we don't have a Java programming teacher to teach it. That's a harder language anyway. That is a high-powered internet language. But Visual Basic is not that difficult. So that's our option, which is 3360 Visual Basic, 3360. And then Dr. B teaches Missy 3370 in the fall only, and that's the systems analysis and design class. An outstanding class where you work with a real company in a group environment, designing and creating, based on user requirements, a new information system. Great class. You learn a lot of different software there too. Missy 4370 is Dr. Ghosh's ERP overview class, which focuses on several modules in SAP. Okay. Missy 4380 is the capstone course that Dr. Bandy teaches only in the spring, and it's our MIS development, and this is the course that you take that project that you developed in the 3370, right, and you implement it on the internet, and you create a link to where it is on the internet, and we encourage you to put that link on your resume to show that potential employer, hey, this is my e-portfolio of the skills that I have learned throughout the junior courses all the way up to the senior level courses. And that proves that you have that skill. A lot of people say they have skills listed on the resume. Prove it. This does. We're the only department that has our students, graduating seniors, create a portfolio that they can show during the course of that interview with that future employer. And I can't tell you how many students have told us that is what got them the job. When they saw that portfolio and the work that they did in that project, starting back in 3370, culminating in 4380, and actually had the link on their resume, it paid big dividends. They got hired among 15 other applicants who didn't have a portfolio to demonstrate. So it adds a lot of credibility to your skills. And then the 4350, which is the IS project management, and that is only offered in the spring. Those are our main courses. Then you choose from these electives. Missy 4390. See what that name says of that course, that term I just mentioned a while ago, BI, Business Intelligence? You learn to analyze big data. Big data means lots and lots of transactions, millions of pieces of data. You have to have high-powered software in order to be able to do that. Excel won't cut it. It's not powerful enough. But SAP can do it. And it does it very well. And we teach more than just that software in that class. I'm going to get to the software coming up besides SAP. And then Missy 3395 is another option for the elective, and that is our ERP e-commerce class. And typically this is taught online, and it does involve using SAP. Okay? All right, going on. Here's the software. We teach a variety of different modules in SAP. In our, as you could tell from those courses just up there, we are what we call ourselves an SAP-enabled curriculum. Most of the courses require teaching that, different modules. I teach another module that's not taught in the IS department in the management department. And that module of SAP is HCM, Human Capital Management, which is the HR module. So that gives you even more exposure. We teach Oracle 11G, the current version of the Oracle database. Big demand for people who understand this and can work with it and can develop those queries. It's more high-powered than Access, but it's very marketable. It's a high-powered company, it's a high-powered software, and they're also engaged in CRM modules, but we don't teach that at this time through Oracle. Tableau, you ever heard of that software? Those of you who aren't MIS? Very specialized graphical software that we teach in the 4390, the BI class, because to give all that analysis to managers, don't you think it would be easier for that manager who's not an IT person to be able to digest all that data visually? Much easier than with all this string of numbers? Absolutely. They want to see graphs. They want to see 3D stuff. They want to be able to make sense of all this ton of data that you're analyzing. And that is, boy, that's a hot software, meaning it is in great demand. I said the average person on the street never heard of it, much less know how to use it. You would learn that. And then we teach a CASE tool. CASE stands for Computer Aided Software Engineering, called Visible Analyst, and that is taught in the 3370 course, the Systems Analysis and Design course, and that's in great demand too. And that's going to create a lot of graphics and entity relationships and structuring, getting ready to structure that database. What's related to what and what kind of relationships are we showing through these symbols that we're drawing. And then Visual Basic, I mentioned that earlier, and MS Project, that's what we're currently teaching, but we might be switching to Primavera, which is another project management software that the main big industries use, that there's a demand for. And then, of course, everybody works with Microsoft Office. So that is our repertoire of software. Here are the careers you could go into. As I mentioned a while ago, MIS is such a broad field, you can't learn it all in 24 hours of courses. We provide you with the foundation, a little bit of networking, a little bit of database, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a whole lot of SAP, and then you get hired and you find your niche. Is it going to be networking? Where you like the technical aspects of implementing and installing a network and maintaining and securing that network? Is it going to be in big data? A lot of our students are getting jobs in that area, analyzing, doing the multidimensional analysis of all this data and making sense of it, and graphically showing it to their boss with Tableau. Is it going to be web designers? Is it going to be a customer support specialist? Is it going to be some type of analyst? What does an analyst do? They analyze and they solve problems, regardless of what the specific job title is, whether it's a SAP business analyst or a systems analyst. They're still analyzing, designing, providing better, improved solutions to provide that information to managers. So these are several of the careers. Now, many times what might influence you to select a major would be how much I can make in this field. Does that ever cross your mind, how much money you can make with the major you're working on now? No, we're not material minded, are we? We don't care. We'd settle for minimum wage. No, you don't want to settle for minimum wage. None of our graduates work for minimum wage. They work for really good salaries. Look at some of these. We track our graduates, and we put them in our database. We track what job title they hold, how many students have been recruited to that company, what location they work in, and we give their salary range. Accenture is an international consulting company. They hired recently, this summer, one of our former students who is SAP certified. They hired her away from, what was it, Computer Science? Computer Science Corporation, where she started out at $80,000 there. 80. When Accenture hired her this summer with 2 years of experience, she's at the 105 level now. Do some research in your major and find out what your entry-level starting positions pay. I'll guarantee you it's not that. That's more than any major in the College of Business earns. Accounting comes second. Their students don't go out at over $100,000, a six-figure salary. IT specialist, University of Utah, 55 to 60. Business data analyst at Apple, my favorite company of all time, and my favorite product, and my favorite stock of all time. 65 to 70,000 in Austin. Technical support specialist for Rolls-Royce and Pearland. Look at that range. Notice all of them. Most of them are 50 to 55 on up. Technical support engineer at a little company in Austin, 45 to 50. Even that is higher than most other majors offer. Accounting will offer most of their good students 3.8 on up who have worked an internship around 50,000. That's about their going rate. And you see ours beginning range, most of them 50, 55, 80, 85 for NetSuite. I placed a lot of students myself personally for a cloud computing company in Austin. We have a big contingent of Lamar MIS graduates in Austin and Houston and Dallas, but a lot of them are in Austin and they love living down there, except for the flood that happened there last week. And the jobs are just plenty. Big data, mobile, social media, application development, cloud. Remember, that was number one. One of them even went to work for Tableau. They were impressed. That person knew the software. How about that? In Austin. Okay, we've got the others in the Word document for that. Is that different from the other?
There's all of them. Maybe more.
Some of you who've had my classes, I give this information out the first week of school because I'm always promoting for this major because this is where the jobs are. These are additional jobs and salaries. Can you see those from back there? I have this list in my office of the salaries our people make, our students make, and their job title, where they work. This is not fiction, folks. This is factual stuff. And we hear from our students. We have a huge network. They stay in touch with us. I wonder why. Because they're very happy in their jobs. They didn't have a hard time getting a job. I started out asking you how hard you thought it was going to be to enter this relatively slow-growing economy. Most of you didn't say anything, but a couple of you said hard. It doesn't have to be hard. Not if you focus on the right major. See, we are in the middle of advising, aren't we, right now? This would be a good time for you to think about either picking up a double major or the minor. Only 6 hours separates the major from the minor. MIS and accounting go very well, hand in hand, because they grew up together when computers came out. And we've had several majors that had both double majors in MIS and accounting. They had multiple job offers. And a couple of them were even certified. What kind of hard decision would that be when you have 5 companies offering you big bucks and you're having to make a decision, which one do I take? Here's the minor, 18 hours, 4 core courses, MIS 3310, which you will look at anyway, MIS 3340, that networking course, 3370, the systems analysis course, 4370, the SAP overview course, and then you choose from these 4 in the right column, two of those 4 for your electives. The 3360, remember, was Visual Basic. 3395 was the e-commerce involving SAP. 4350 was the project management. 4380 was the IS implementation, that capstone course. Think about it. We provide internships. I hear a lot of students ask me, what does it take to get an internship? Well, we usually give the interns or recommend people for internships once they have some skills built up, which means you got to take the junior level courses to get some of these skills. So maybe you'd be ready for an internship when you're a senior, and we have part-time jobs, internships, scholarships, a lot of scholarships that go unclaimed. I'm on the scholarship committee for the College of Business, and the dean is always complaining, we got all this money left over. These students either aren't applying for the scholarship money, or on the other hand, their GPAs are too low where they don't qualify for it. We have resources to help you. If you study, improve your grades, and stay focused, we want to help you become successful. Like most of our graduates who leave here with this degree, we post our internships and our jobs that Dr. Bandy and I both get a lot of positions. Do you have students to fill these positions? This is what we're looking for. We post them on our Facebook page. And the name of the group is MIS Lamar. We have more job postings than we have students to fill them. How about that? That's a good problem to have, isn't it? Because that means anybody who is good, who is focused, who studies and prepares and learns these skills can easily walk into a job. All of our good students have that job before they graduate. Most of them. You need to be thinking about the major you have right now. And I'm not knocking anybody's major. But I want you to start getting focused and think about your future in terms of, do I have what it takes to enter the job market in a professional capacity that's going to pay me a decent salary. Anybody can get a minimum wage job. They're posted all over this area. You don't go to college for that, do you? No. You want to use your brains, you want to apply your skills, and you want to be marketable. Those things make you marketable.
Cindy, let's Stephen talk about
Okay, let me quickly say this. As you know, we teach SAP in most of those classes. And we also, why do you volunteer that? I just love to talk so much, I've exceeded my time frame. So I'm going to introduce, I wanted to tell you about Turf 10, but I'm going to let Stephen Green, one of our former students who graduated in 2013, who works as an SAP IT developer for Hewlett-Packard in Houston, tell you about Turf 10 because he attended it, 2-week boot camp. The last day it culminates with a very hard exam. He passed it. He's certified. So I'm turning it over to you, Stephen.
I actually work for Hewlett-Packard Enterprise as of Sunday. It's split, as you all know, into 2 Fortune 50 companies. And that was what I did for the last 6 months, was help them split their SAP system in half. Saying that HP uses SAP is an understatement. It's so ingrained into it. It's like this. Like, we have such a good relationship with them. We talk to people in Germany all the time. Hey, we think this would be a good feature. And SAP's like, oh, we'll do it. That's how close. So if you want SAP, if you want to work with it, HP is the way to go. Because it's the biggest company that uses it on the planet. And this will help. The Turf 10 certification. A hard exam, that's an understatement too. It's hard as shit. Like I think out of the 20 people that took boot camp with me, I was one of 4 that passed it, and I got 51%. Yeah, that's all you gotta do is make 51% on it. However, almost all those questions on there are open-ended, and they don't give you partial credit for it. So it's like, hey, the accounting module can do this. There'll be 5 answers. Which of these 3 is right? All 5 of them are technically right, but 3 are more right. So if you get 2 out of the 3, it's wrong. So you have to study. You have to know. That boot camp really does help. What we did was we just kind of worked on it together in a Google Doc. The people who didn't pay attention to that Google Doc all failed. If you work together, study for it, you'll pass it. And if you're an MIS major, and I say take it, even if you don't plan to work with SAP, because it helped me get my first job like that. It was right at the top of my resume. I got called by every company I applied to. I got offers from IBM, HP, some small company in Dallas that I don't want to talk about. But the jobs are out there. Dr. Barnes is right. You just got to look for them. Everybody's hiring, especially HP, because this is not to knock on people that are near retirement age, but most of them are getting there. HP has a huge problem with that, where I would say about 50% of its workforce are going to retire in the next 5 years. So they're hiring people right out of school like crazy. Like, in fact, right after the split happened yesterday, one manager blocked off all the conference rooms in the area I work in to interview something like 500 people. And she had tons of jobs for those guys. I mean, they're not going to all go.
We have 20 graduating students. You can take all of them.
If I could hire everybody, I'd always go to one. Like, this program really does help. And it's the small schools that get the more respect from the bigger companies. Like, you had a 4.0 at UT Austin. Yeah, good job. You did a great job. But what did you actually learn there? I mean, they actually spend the time on the foundation. You learn, viable skills, and you can solve problems, because that's the biggest thing that new employees are going to want are well-rounded candidates are gonna, be able to fix problems. Like just today, like I was on a staff meeting before this presentation, and we were talking about what we were going to do for the next year. And my boss was like, "Hey, Steven, you need to figure out how to get all these servers to be able to report to me if they're going to be running out of space." Like, do I know how to do that? Yes, I do. And I didn't learn that here. I learned that on the job. But the skills you learn, developing a database, working in that project team, those go a long way. I mean, if you don't know how to work with people, you might as well just get out of this major right now. Because there's no MIS major that'll work by themselves ever. That's what the code monkeys are for. Those are your computer science majors, your CS guys. And I absolutely guarantee you that there will be somebody in India or China, usually India, that will do that job, that code programming job, for about half as much as you're willing to make. It's true. And that's why having a business background, especially the Turk 10 certification, and there's plenty of other ones you could get, like the PMP certification, which I'll touch on in a minute. That'll help you not only have the programming skills you need. I mean, we don't learn a whole lot of coding, but that can be learned easily. Like, you can learn that on your own. You'll learn it on the job if you work at HP. Like, I've become pretty fluent in Java myself, actually. I didn't know a damn thing about it before I graduated. Sorry for the language. That's what I'm getting at. It's just be well-rounded. Don't be afraid to learn. Don't be afraid of taking on new projects. Like if your boss says, "Hey, can you do this?" Yeah, you can do it. And then you figure out later how to actually do it.
Stephen, tell us about the interviewing process a bit, because some of our students are interviewing now.
Oh, yeah.
So it would really, add to their story.
I'm glad Dr. Barnes said the whole, on your resume, prove it. Because, any big company, especially HP, they're going to have your resume right in front of you. And, you're going to have your list of all your bag of tricks, your Java, the list. They're going to ask you line by line, "Hey, tell me about what you did here. Tell me about what you did with this." I actually had to get onto a screen sharing Skype meeting where I had to, they gave me problems with Oracle. They told me to do commands right there and then. Like, they were like, "Hey, how do you query this table to do this with this where statement?" Like, so pay attention in Dr. Fandy's class, please. And that's typical with any big company. They're going to make you demonstrate and prove it because it's so easy to do so. Like all my meetings are over Skype, or it was Link before Skype was bought out by Microsoft. And we screen share all the time, things we're doing. Like I work with a project manager in France all the time, and me and him share screens, and we work on stuff together. And that first interview, you may not actually have to do that. I'm not trying to scare you, but you're going to have to prove what you know. Like, because you can put it on your resume all day long, but if you don't actually know it, you're going to get caught pretty quick. You'll have that first interview maybe with the recruiter. That person doesn't know anything about anything. And then you'll have it with maybe the HR rep. She knows a little bit more, but mostly nothing. And then you'll finally get that interview with that hiring manager. That person is who you gotta convince, because they're gonna know, like, more than likely that guy probably also has a CS degree. Most of them at HP have mechanical engineering degrees. People getting up wanting to talk to me makes me lose my train of thought.
Same thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Most of them have mechanical engineering degrees that had to learn this stuff on the job because this didn't exist when they went to school. This is relatively a new field. Like, it was exploding in the 90s when the internet showed up in 94. And like internet, clouds, and there's a word for it. It's called infobesity. Like so much information. You have to deal with it. This is one of the fields that popped up to deal with that. Big data is a big buzzword. I deal with it on a daily basis. I have to analyze the server health status of servers all around the world that store a bunch of engineering CAD designs, that sort of thing. And I have to figure out how to know when that server is going to go down before it goes down. Because if it goes down, I'm in trouble. I didn't do my job. Having to, like what I did was I developed a Perl script that reads all the server. How many of you know what Perl is? 2. Yeah, it's a very, very good skill to learn. I developed a Perl script that just, pings all the servers. Real simple, but like managers love that stuff. Like, the answers to these questions are pretty simple if you know what to do. Like, managers love simple explanations for problems. They love pictures. They're like children. Really, there's no better word for it. Especially even the execs. Right above me, like Scott Spradley, my CIO. He hates over information. Like, I have to, I'm not cool enough to present to him directly, but, my boss, he has to delegate information to his boss that, talks to him about it. But, who's going to be the person developing most of that information? It's me, because I'm, under the umbrella of 2 other people. But being able to concisely understand, how do I explain it? Being able to present an answer to a problem without, going into the details, that, communicating, that's an important trait. Another thing I would like to say is pick up some skills that we don't teach, that they don't teach in this this program. Like, we already get a pretty good foundation SAP, Visual Basic, that's a good one. But pick up some stuff that are outside of, but do that on your own, because that speaks to a manager that you're willing to figure stuff out without them telling you to. Because my boss hates telling me what to do. I have to already know what to do. And I hate that, but right now you have a teacher telling you, hey, do this assignment, she shows you how to do it, but like, that doesn't happen after you graduate. It's like, you got to know problems before the problems happen, before that problem causes another problem. Yeah, but you get paid well for doing it. We proved it. A starting salary for most people outside of Houston's, I've never seen anything below $50,000. And even the best accounting majors, like she said, won't make anywhere near that, unless they have like 3 or 4 internships, delay their graduation by 2 years. I know because I was an accounting major.
Have you always been in MIS? Tell us about your career as a student.
Oh, right. I started off in chemical engineering before I realized I hated chemistry. Yeah, like, who's had, the old guy in the chemistry department, Dr. The one that makes everybody tired. I forget his name. Sure. I wish I knew his name because you'll probably all had it before. I took his class, and I was like, wow, engineering sucks. So I switched to accounting because that was I know this is stupid, but I switched to I knew I was going to do business, so I switched to the alphabetically first. That happened. Yeah, I laughed about it. That was accounting. And I did that all the way up to intermediate 2. Like, I technically have a minor in accounting. And I failed the crap out of intermediate 2. I got a D, but that's failed. Like, you can't get a job unless you get at least a B in that class. And I switched to MIS because it was the major that would let me graduate within a year. That's the honest truth. But it was the class I did the best in. I took the fundamentals class, 3310, with Dr. Flossie, and made an A without even having to think about it. Well, because you were a good teacher. Because it came natural, it's just, it was good nature. So, like, I went straight into the last part of the MIS classes all at once. And I don't regret it at all, because if I had stayed in accounting, I would have probably had to stay at least another year and a half, finish that intermediate class out, if I pass it the next time. but more on accounting later. Let's not forget about them. But I got a job at HP almost within a month of graduating. I was interviewing for it. I had interviewed 5 times for the job I got. 5. 2 of which were with, the recruiter, manager, and then I had to deal with the person who would eventually become my first manager, but then she left the company 2 weeks later. Then the 4th interview was the guy who took over after her, and then the 5th guy was their vice president. I had to interview with the vice president of the division before I even got a job. Man, that's not typical, I guarantee you. You're probably going to maybe have 2 to 3 interviews, maybe even 1 if you're good. I've heard stories of people getting a job after 1 interview. It happens. Not often, but it does. But like I said, be prepared for that interview. Be able to back up with evidence that you understand, what an entity relationship diagram is. Be able to explain that project, which is awesome because you got a link to it right there. The manager I interviewed with, he clicked around with it, and if it had been broken at that point in time, I would have been in trouble, wouldn't I have? Because I was watching him, mess with it, make queries, that sort of thing. Because it's excellent. Because right there you can prove without having to bring in a big suitcase of crap that you've done, or if you're an accounting major, how do you prove you actually know your accounting? I still think about that. How would I convince somebody? Yeah, if they had looked at my transcript, D and intermediate 2, and God knows what with advanced accounting, I don't know how anybody gets a job unless you have A's and B's. That's the same with MIS. Make sure you get at least a B, please. But don't sell yourself short if you think you have a low, because I graduated with a GPA of about 2.9, that area. I'm not going to lie. MIS, that was probably more closer to 3.8 because I did better in those classes. But your overall GPA, that's what they're going to look at. And half of those classes don't have anything to do with what you're applying for. Especially accounting, I sucked at eco. I think I barely made it out of the third eco. Might as well be honest with this, right? And then I think I took your stats class, barely made a B in it. And I took yours because the other teacher, he's here too, right, LUB, I made a D in his class. Because I was taking too many accounting classes at once. It's not because I didn't know what I was doing, but it speaks to your character, that you don't have to be scared of your GPA. Yeah, yes, have as best a GPA as you can get, but it's not over. Do well.
Tell us about your future path that you want to take, and tell us also about the
Future path and what?
that you would like to take, the future that you envision, and the graduate degree that you want. Those are things you want.
Right. Okay. Future path.
Where do you see yourself?
Where do I see myself in 5 years? That typical question. Right now, I stand as an IT developer too. I work in the R&D section of HP. I'm working on actually right now a prototype server about the size of those 2 boxes right there that will be able to virtualize engineering tools over the cloud. This big deal. Because now every engineer won't have to have an $8,000 workstation. They can do it on this computer if they felt like it, or a Mac, because it won't have to be cross-platform anymore. Well, you don't have to have a Windows machine, or you don't have to have this. You can use whatever you want. You can use your phone to do engineering application. R&D is a little weird for MIS because that's more of a ME, electrical engineering type field. In fact, the job that I've had, all 3 of them have been for, they were meant for somebody who had a degree in mechanical engineering. But I got it. That's because I was able to explain to them that I can solve problems very quickly. path went down the R&D field. Yours doesn't have to. You can do project management. You can do coding if you want to. You can do whatever you want. You got an MIS degree. And it really helps. Like my boss has an MIS degree, and his boss does too. It goes a long way. But beyond the R&D application, I'd really like to get into the solution architecting role, which is those are the people that develop the mouse, that sort of thing. They're the ones that solve problems or before it's a problem, but they have money to do it this time. Because that's another thing is dealing with budget. I'm too low down the food chain to be able to convince people to spend money on stuff, but I can convince my manager to do it, and he gave me money for the Moonshot project, the mini server thing, because I was able to tell him that the thing would be possible. Using just a simple low power server that could technically run a high powered engineering CAD tool. I had to convince him of this. It was a 3-page document in the end, but I did. And then he convinced his boss that this is a good idea. So we're going with it. So that's the beginning. Solution architecting is what I'd like to get into. But to be a manager of anything, of any sort of team, I would really recommend getting an MBA. You could also get the master's in MIS if you want, or something else, but an MBA is really good. Most managers at HP, even the execs, they all have MBAs. Some have PhDs if you want to go that route. If you want more school, cool, go for it. But I would say maybe get a job first. I worked for about 2 years and then I started graduate school. Getting into graduate school is a lot easier if you have work experience. Maybe question?
What's your favorite part of your job?
Favorite part of my job? Not knowing what I'm going to do when I get there.
It's not the same thing every day.
It's not the same thing every day.
I have a question.
Sure.
On what particular module you are working right now?
On what particular project?
Module of SAP.
I actually don't work with SAP anymore. That was what I did at first. But that was financial accounting, the f15 module. The Turk 10 exam is about 50% more financial accounting. And then probably another 20% is controlling, which is managerial accounting. Y'all probably have classes to go to.